Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are tackling something really specific, very important if you're involved with the Galveston Firefighters Relief and Retirement Fund.
That's right. We're looking at the actual adopted administrative procedures, the ones the Board of Trustees uses for deciding disability applications.
So this is basically the official rule book based on Section 4 of the fund and the Texas statutes Art 6243E.
Exactly. And our mission today really is to break down this dense legal stuff into something you can actually use. Want to map out the steps, the deadlines, the potential pitfalls.
Especially around getting started, that initial eligibility, and then keeping the benefits going, the ongoing reviews.
Yeah, those are critical because mistakes here can be costly.
Okay, let's unpack this detailed rule book. Where do we even begin? What's step one? All right, so a member needs to apply for disability. They have to ask for an application, right?
Yes, you have to officially request it. And crucially, the board can't just hand over a blank page. The procedures say they must give the member 7 specific statements or items along with the application form.
7 items? Like what?
It's things like a statement confirming these procedures even exist, acknowledging them, and, really importantly, outlining the key deadlines right up front.
Ah, the deadlines. Okay, let's talk about those. I hear there's a tight turnaround involved pretty quickly.
There is. The number that jumps out immediately is 20 days.
20 days for what, exactly?
Well, a couple of things. First, once you submit your completed application, if the board looks at it and says, we need more information, they have 20 days from receiving your application to ask for it.
Okay, so the board has 20 days to ask for more stuff.
Right. But then, here's the kicker for the applicant.
What?
If the board does ask for more information, you only have 20 days from the date of their request to provide everything they asked for.
Only 20 days. To get potentially complex medical or other documents together.
Precisely. And the procedures are very clear here. If you don't furnish all the necessary information within that 20-day window,
Let me guess.
the board may determine you're not eligible. Period. Not because your case lacks merit, but simply because the file isn't complete according to their request and timeline.
Wow. That's a serious procedural tripwire. So even if you are genuinely disabled, missing that 20-day deadline for follow-up info could get your application denied.
It absolutely could. It's an administrative denial based on essentially an incomplete submission. And think about it. Someone applying for disability might be dealing with a lot, getting extra paperwork in just 20 days. That's tough.
Okay, huge heads up there. So to avoid that, let's back up. What makes an application completed in the first place? What must be in that initial submission?
Good question. Step 2 lists the required contents. It's not just filling out the form. You need first a sworn statement about your medical condition. And very specifically, it must be signed by your attending physician.
Attending physician, not just any doctor who looked at your file.
Correct. It has to be the doctor actively treating you for the condition. That's a strict requirement.
Okay. What else?
You also need another sworn statement, this one, about the circumstances how the disability happened.
And who signs that one?
This one's a bit more flexible. It can be signed by the member, so you, or by someone else who knows the circumstances, maybe a spouse, a colleague who was there.
That makes sense if the member isn't able to recount the events clearly.
Exactly. It acknowledges the potential limitations of the applicant. And finally, you need to include other pertinent information. Things like lab results, x-rays, basically the medical evidence backing up your claim.
So the initial package needs to be pretty comprehensive. The application form, the doctor's sworn statement, the circumstances statement, and supporting medical records.
Yes. You want to give the board everything they need right from the start to minimize the chance they even need to ask for more information within that first 20-day window.
Okay, so let's say you've submitted the completed application. Maybe they asked for more info. You met that tight 20-day deadline. Now what? How does the board actually review it?
Right, now we're at step 3, the board review. The timing is specific again. They review it at the next regularly scheduled board meeting that happens after one of 2 dates, whichever is later.
Whichever is later. What are the 2 dates?
Either the date they first receive your completed application, or if they ask for more info, the date that 20-day window for you to provide it expired.
Ah, okay. So they ensure all the potential information deadlines have passed before they meet to decide.
Right.
Clever. And can the member attend this meeting?
Yes, the procedures explicitly say the member or their representative can attend.
Good to know. So at that meeting, what can the board decide? What are their options?
They basically have 3 initial choices. 1, vote to approve the application. 2, vote to deny it. Or 3, they can sort of pause the decision and vote to appoint an independent expert like a physician or a rehabilitation specialist to review the case.
Okay, so approve, deny, or get an expert opinion. What happens if they choose the expert route?
If they appoint an expert, the board sends your whole file application, medical records, everything over to that chosen expert. The expert reviews it and provides their own statement back to the board.
And then the board votes.
Yes, but not immediately. The final vote to approve or deny happens at the next regularly scheduled meeting after they receive the expert's statement. It keeps things moving, but allows time for that external review.
Makes sense. Now, what if the outcome is denial? Do they just say no?
No, and this is important for transparency. The procedures require specifics. If they deny it because of that lack of sufficient information issue we discussed,
The procedural knockout.
right, then a statement specifically saying that must go into your file clarifies the reason wasn't the medical merit, but the incomplete paperwork according to the deadline.
And if they deny it for other reasons, based on the medical facts or circumstances?
Same principle. They have to enter a statement detailing the specific reason or reasons for the denial. No vague rejections allowed. They have to put their rationale on the record.
That's good. It gives the member a clear understanding of why. What about an approval? Is it just congratulations, you're approved?
Not quite. An approval notice comes with 2 very important strings attached, essentially. First, it has to state that the disability benefit is always subject to being terminated, reduced, or even reinstated later on. This points back to Section 6.04 of the fund rules, basically saying this isn't necessarily permanent.
Okay, so the approval is conditional. What's the second string?
The second one sets up the next phase. The approval notice must also state that you, the member, must supply a completed continuing disability benefit application whenever the board requests it in the future.
Ah, so getting approved is just the first hurdle. Now you're in the system for ongoing checks.
Exactly. You've passed the entry exam, but now you're subject to the long game of proving you remain eligible. And that brings us neatly into this whole separate process, the continuing disability review. This is crucial for understanding how benefits are maintained over time.
Right, this isn't about getting approved initially. This is for people already receiving benefits. How does this process kick off?
It's triggered simply when the board decides to request a continuing disability benefit application from a member. They can decide to do this periodically to check ongoing eligibility.
And what's the timeline here? Is it another tight 20-day window?
No, thankfully. This is a key difference. The member has 66 0 days from the date of the board's request to submit the completed continuing application.
60 days. That's much more reasonable than 20.
It is. And it probably reflects the complexity of what's required, especially the financial documentation. We should really pause on that contrast. 20 days for initial follow-up info, but 60 days for this continuing application.
Okay, so what's required in this continuing application? Is it the same stuff as the initial one?
Similar, but with a major addition. You still need statements from yourself and your attending physician about your current physical and mental status. But the big one is the financial disclosure.
Ah, the money part. What do they need?
For the very first continuing application you submit after being approved, the requirement is significant. You need a sworn statement of your current financial income, and it must be backed up by copies of your Form 1040 tax returns and all your W-2s for the previous 2 years.
2 years of W-2s and 1040s for that first check-in. Wow, that's comprehensive.
It's a deep dive into your recent financial history. You absolutely need to anticipate that and have those documents ready. It's not just about current income. It's about establishing a baseline, perhaps looking for work capacity.
And after that first one, do they need 2 years of documents every time?
No, subsequent continuing applications are a bit less burdensome on that front.
Yeah.
They still require the sworn financial statement, but it only needs to be supported by your most recently filed 1040 and associated W-2s.
Okay, still requires recent tax docs, but not the 2-year look back every single time. But that 60-day deadline still applies.
Yes, and the penalty for missing it is just as severe as before. If you don't provide all the required information for the continuing application within 60 days of the board's request, the board will determine you are no longer eligible for continuing benefits.
So the timeline is longer, but the consequence for missing it is the same benefits can be terminated.
Correct. That deadline is absolute. Now, when the board reviews this continuing application, they actually have a few more options than they did initially.
More than just approve or deny.
Well, more nuanced options. They can vote to continue the benefit as is, 2, reduce the benefit amount, 3, terminate the benefit entirely, or 4, like before, appoint an expert for review.
Okay, continue, reduce, terminate, or expert review. That sounds like the range.
There's actually a fifth option here, which is interesting. They can vote to continue paying the benefit, but explicitly reserve the right to request more information later.
Huh. So keep paying, but keep the case sort of open for more questions.
Exactly. It's a flexible tool. It lets them keep funds flowing to the member if needed, but protects the fund by not giving a final, unqualified, continue decision until they're completely satisfied with the information.
All right, we've covered the initial application hoops, the continuing review process, deadlines, documents. But how does communication actually work? Getting notice, sending things in. The logistics seem vital here.
Oh, they are absolutely critical. Section C of the procedures, specifically C.1 on giving notice, might be one of the most important parts to understand from a practical standpoint. It defines when notice is legally considered given.
And I sense there's a catch, or maybe a difference depending on direction.
A huge difference. Listen to this. When the board sends notice to you, the member, it is legally considered given the moment it's put in the United States mail, properly addressed.
Wait a minute. When they mail it? Not when I receive it.
Correct. Whether you actually receive it or not, or when you receive it, doesn't legally matter for when the clock starts. If they mail a request for that crucial 20-day info on a Monday, your 20 days start ticking on Monday.
Even if the mail takes 5 days to get to my house?
Yes, the risk of postal delay falls entirely on the member in that direction.
Wow. Okay. That's harsh, but clear. What about the other way? When I send something to the board, like my application or the requested info?
It's the complete opposite. Notice, or documents given to the board, is only considered given when it is actually received by the board.
Received, not postmarked.
Not postmarked, physically received by them. So if you mail something on day 19 of a 20-day deadline and it arrives on day 21, you've missed the deadline.
Okay, that distinction is massive. It basically means you absolutely need to use certified mail, return receipt requested, or hand deliver things if you're anywhere near a deadline.
You really should, yes. To have proof of receipt by the deadline, the burden is on you to ensure timely delivery into their hands. You can't rely on the postmark.
So, board notice counts when sent. Your notice counts when received. That's a key strategic takeaway. What else is in this fine print section?
The other really important point is C.2. It just flatly states that the board can amend these procedures at any time and from time to time.
Meaning this rule book we're discussing could change.
Could change at any board meeting, theoretically. It's a living document. The procedures you rely on today might be slightly different next year or even next month.
Which means you constantly need to be checking if you're subject to these rules, especially for the long-term continuing reviews.
Absolutely. You can't just assume the process stays static. Hashtag #outro.
Okay, wow. That was a deep dive into some very specific, very important rules.
Yeah.
Let's try to quickly boil down the absolute must-knows.
I'd say number one, those deadlines. Know the difference between the initial 20-day window for follow-up info and the 60-day window for the continuing application. Missing either can be fatal to the claim or benefit.
Right. Deadline awareness is paramount. Second, the documentation, especially for that first continuing review. Be ready for that 2-year look back on W-2s and 1040s.
Definitely. Have those tax documents organized. And third, that crucial distinction in communication. Board notice is effective when mailed. Your notice is effective only when received. Plan accordingly. Use tracking.
Mailbox rule for them, actual receipt rule for you.
Got it. That really covers the core tactical points.
Absolutely. So that leaves us with maybe one final thought for everyone listening, something to chew on. We just heard the board can amend these procedures at any time.
Yes, that's C.2 point.
So if you're a member, maybe you're years away from your next continuing review, how do you plan for that? If the rules about, say, financial disclosures could potentially change between now and then, how much buffer do you build into your planning knowing the target might shift?
That's the real challenge of navigating a system that can be amended. It underscores the need to stay informed, check for updates periodically, and not just rely on old information. Constant vigilance is key.
Something to definitely keep in mind. Great insights today.
Glad we could unpack it.
Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll catch you next time on The Deep Dive.